Hi, Tina Peters here.
See, today they go after you if you're investigating.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
To the Tina Peters Show, The Truth Matters. I'm Joe Hoft. I'm filling in today and honored to do so, as always, for the great Tina Peters. So thanks so much for listening in. Thanks for everything. We got all sorts of stuff to cover today. We got an incredible guest. You'll never guess who. And so that's pretty exciting. And then we've got, we'll be following this up with the Joe Hoft Show right after this live as well. So thanks for being here. Thanks for praying for Tina Peters, supporting her in every way possible. I believe her website's tinapeters.us, as I recall. And, help her out in any way that you can. Send her notes, send us notes. Mostly send us prayers, and all of us, especially Tina Peters. There's people that are working in her favor. We've got demons that we're fighting against, and the demons aren't done. So just know that we won. We won with a huge majority, but they're not done, and they're still stealing stuff. And it's going to be a lot of work on our part. Now's the time. You keep thinking. I remember this in 2020, before the election. I worked so hard to help promote President Trump. I did in 2016 as well, and then he won, and then it was so exciting, and we all celebrated and didn't have a clue that at that time Obama and Hillary are working on a coup d'etat of removing him from office, which is treason, which has no statute of limitations, remind you. And these people need to be held accountable. I am sorry. If these people are not held accountable, we lose this country, because you can't have a country without justice and claim that it's the great USA. We've got to fight. I just pray to God that Pam Bondi's strong enough to withstand this. Right now, she's just going on shows, and I'm a little frustrated with that, because we've got people like Tina Peters sitting in prison, other people like myself and others who've been targeted and just beaten by these monsters on the evil left. Just, probably some are Satanists, to tell you the truth. It's just really gross, some of these people. We'll be talking about some in the show today. So thanks for listening in. Keep praying for protection, for guidance, for an air of armor around all of us, as the devil's working his overtime now to try to catch up. Anyway, 2020 worked so hard, and then all of a sudden, boom! It's the Mueller sham, and I couldn't believe it. I'm in Hong Kong. I watched James Comey in front of the Senate, and I'm watching this live, and I'm like, he's trying to take President Trump's out. It took me about a half an hour, his testimony. I wasn't, I guess, not too bright. And from that point forward, I was like, this is a sham. And then I started seeing how all these lefties never recuse themselves. They all hate Trump. There's all sorts of information that showed these people were not non-biased. They were monsters. Andrew Weissman, Comey, all these monsters. And it was disgusting to watch from afar. And really feel like I've been working so hard ever since. Trump wins. We've supported him that whole time. Couldn't believe they bring up an impeachment. Now we know it was in Ukraine. So that's the mothership. That's where George Soros is. That's been his home since he was in that 60 Minutes interview 25 years ago now, where he says, oh, no, I don't believe in God. And, oh, yeah, he had no problem helping the Nazis by turning in Jews to the Nazis and watching them get sent to concentration camps. He made money. And the Germans, the Nazis made money. They were happy. And he said it was the most formative years in his life. And if he didn't do it, somebody else would. That is who is behind the Democrats. Just recently, I saw Mike Benz come out with a piece where he shows this text message or email from one of Bill Clinton's accolades in the State Department saying, hey, we need to keep the UK, blah, 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 and George Soros involved in all of this. And so as far back as the late 1990s, we had George Soros muddling in our government, and it's just appalling that that's happened. We're finally starting to uncover the deep state. and President Trump's doing his best to get it out as quickly as possible. And again, we just want more, faster. We want people put behind bars. We don't want anything but that. Charge them with the easiest crime you got. We can work on the rest later, but throw them in prison because we've got to stop these guys from just any more destruction. That's the reason. You've got to prevent them from doing more crimes, which I'm no doubt they are with the signal situation this week. We saw it. Also with the JFK stuff, we've got more evidence that the DOJ, the CIA, the legislature back then, all covered up and were involved in. Certainly, the CIA was involved in the assassination plot of and assassination of John F. Kennedy. And I had Roger Stone on my show yesterday. If you get a chance, go back and watch it. It was fantastic. He lays it out. He knows, he still believes LBJ. Everything that he saw so far confirms that LBJ was involved in this, if not leading the operation. CIA was certainly involved. The mob was involved. A lot of players involved. The FBI. There was a text that came out just the past week saying from Hoover, the corrupt head of the FBI, to his team, his leads, saying, make sure you tie in George W. Bush at the CIA on anything related to this assassination. So that leads some credence that certainly George W. Bush was involved. I still don't know if he was there, if those pictures are of him. But he certainly was involved, and we have evidence of that now. So lots of stuff we're learning about. The deep state is deep, it's dark, it's sinister, it's sick. They're trying another, the signal thing is all another sham, another, they've got this garbage media that's going to stand up for them. I love the way they're handling it. It's such a joke. It's pre-planned. It's another operation, and using the Atlantic, using the media, using people like Norm Eisen behind the whole scene. This Wong guy's tied to, he's the Wong guy for sure. Don't know who brought him into the Trump team. That's the criminal that you need to go after and fire both Wong and whoever brought him in. And clearly there's some real questions there. And put a lot of this stuff up at joehoft.com this morning. So we'll be talking about some of it. Before we get going on all that, though, keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting. We've got to fight for this country. Our elections are still absolutely busted and broken. Going to have some big bombs coming out here in the near future regarding the election that it's going to blow you away. I promise you that. Still working on it. Very frustrated that it's taken so long, but we're going to get it right. So anyways, that's going on, and promise to get something to you at some point in time. In addition to that, I want to let you know that I will be in St. Louis, not this weekend, next weekend, April 4th through 6th. And will be a keynote speaker at this event that's put on by United Sovereign Americans. So that'll be in St. Louis, actually outside of St. Louis, in St. Charles, I believe a former capital of Missouri at one time. And at the Drury Inn, we'll be speaking there. Ann Vandersteel will be joining me. She'll be there as another keynote speaker. Should be a lot of fun, a lot of great information. Marley Hornick and Harry Hari are putting this thing together, and honored to be a part of that. So if you haven't got tickets already, get them. If you can only go there for one day, do so. Saturday will be a lunch and a dinner and some great keynote speakers. So anyways, hopefully you can make that. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being there. And if you can send a small donation, do it, or certainly, again, pray for this country, pray for the people that are working so hard for no pay to make this country a better place. So speaking about working very hard and doing things, Sidney Powell came out with a tweet regarding Tina Peters' case. There was a response that was written apparently by the state of Colorado. I'm not an attorney, but it came out just I believe in the last 24 hours. And Sidney Powell says, what's going on here, really, basically? What's going on? This girl was working, doing her best for the people of America, the people of the Americans, and the people of her state and county. And she kept a snapshot of her, an image of her legally of her election records, and for that she has been She's been thrown in prison. It's outrageous. This needs to be dealt with. Those that are involved in this situation, having Tina in prison, need to be dealt with anyways. People are noticing. President Trump's noticing, and some big people are all noticing. The Trump White House has said, get her out of there. And she shouldn't be there, but you've got a corrupt state leadership that's only there, I believe, because of the stolen elections they put in place there. Now they have mail-in ballots. It's a sham. It's all a lie. Got a great guest coming on tomorrow from Italy on the Joe Hoft Show. We're going to talk about how they do it in Italy. My suggestion is do it like the Italians. These people keep it simple. They do it the way we did for 200 years in this country. We get all the garbage out of the system and just keep it simple and do it right. And that's what we need to do. So anyways, we'll have more on that tomorrow on the Joe Hoft Show. Anyways, a lot's going on. As you know, the media has been a big part of this, what I call the election industrial complex. This is something that I coined in working with this group, Fate 2024, that I put together before this last election. We looked into the processes and controls. Had one piece where we determined that only a third of all the controls that should be in place actually are in place in our elections. In the corporate world, that would be a failed audit and therefore financials that were unverifiable and therefore bankruptcy for a company. This is taken very seriously in the corporate world. Not so in the election world. Not so. We looked at around 500 or so controls that need to be in place. Those activities that prevent fraud in a process, similar to what we would do in the corporate world when Sarbanes-Oxley came out. And we have to have every single, if it's 500, every single 500 controls in place. In the election world, we're seeing a third or perhaps in place. 2/3 aren't even, maybe not even there, let alone working properly and in place. So that has to be tested in the corporate world. We go through a rigorous amount of testing, work, all kinds of work to ensure that the controls are supporting the numbers and the financials. And yet for our elections, nothing of that sort. We've brought in all this manufactured garbage. And it's just making our elections weaker, not stronger. And that's what the criminals want. That's what the criminals want. And no doubt these monsters will do all they can to fight for the fraud in the elections. Tina Peters stands up to it, and she's put in prison. And the reason is they not only just because they hate her for doing that, but because she was so effective. It's only the effective people they go after. Remember that. I try to remember that because I've been hammered by these monsters, the deep state, over my career, all for sharing the truth. It's amazing. It's amazing the hell that you have to go through because these monsters want to take America communist, and they're not honest people. They're disgusting people that just play games with our legal system and our elections and our government and the funding and everything. It's all now. I think everything's stolen, don't you? It's just a joke. Our media is broken. Yesterday there was two people in front of the Congress, and it's from NPR and from PBS. Anyways, this one lady at NPR, listen to, we got a couple clips on her. We're paying for this. Think of this. We're paying for this. These people get paid by us large salaries and all the people that work for them. Let's take a look at what was uncovered in yesterday's hearing. President Trump saying, shut them down. I agree. Shut them down. We shouldn't be paying these outlets. It's free deep state propaganda being pushed by our own government. Shut it down. Shut the damn thing down. Here's a first clip of this lady from NPR in front of the House yesterday.
You're a rabid progressive. And do you not think it's a problem that your political leanings make it seem to the American people that you're not biased and that you're not doing your job? Because you agree that your job is to have journalistic integrity, right?
Absolutely, but there is a strong firewall between the newsroom and anything that I
Let's
do.
talk about the newsroom. You have 87 registered Democrats, not a single Republican in your editor board. So, I mean, how does that work to give us the perception that you're doing your job of actually delivering unbiased information.
Well, I would agree with you that that number is a concern if it is accurate. I do believe that we need to have journalists who represent the full breadth of the American society so that we can report well for all Americans.
Well, I think that you are failing. I realize you've only been there for a year, but I just really think that while it is a small portion of your budget, you very much should expect to restructure your revenue streams, because I don't think that NPR is necessarily worth saving.
That organization gets a lot of federal funding, billions, as well as PBS. Anyways, here's another clip from this NPR head, Catherine Maher is her name. Boy, she just sits there. Notice how she just says, well, I don't know if your numbers are accurate, but that would be startling. You're in charge of the place. It's your job. It's not for you. It's not startling. It's, I will fix that right away. But after a year, you don't have that choice. I've been in board meetings, been in a board meeting. I can't remember for which state. I was going to say in Texas, but I may be wrong. Where this president said, well, I'm still new. And one of the board members said, no. After a year, you're no longer new. So we'll give you 2 more months. Then you're here for a year. This is now yours. Understand that. This lady's been there for a year. It's hers. This lady needs to be held accountable. It's not, oh, I'd be startled by that. It should be shocking to a fair-minded person. Like, God, I didn't realize that. Of course she did. They can't even say that. The answer is you're fired. The answer is you're fired. And that's what boards of real corporations would do. And I've been in boards like that where they don't monkey around. It's, kind, courteous people, but they got a business to run, and they don't put up with BS from nasty people like that who want to just pretend like it's not happening, suggest that the numbers aren't true from an individual congressman who's relaying that information. Although I've got to admit, these congressmen, some of them are the most dishonest people on earth. Look at Adam Schiff. But her reaction was terrible. Here's another tweet from yesterday's hearing. It'll just shock you. Watch this.
Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. Ha, how white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone
Seems
to pay
to be what you're
reparations, sir.
suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being
You
illegal.
tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my
You
time at
tweeted
NPR.
that you read that book, but
I don't believe that I did read.
How disgusting. I mean, that's who's running NPR. I'm so glad they brought her in. I hope that she's fired within hours. She should be. She should be. This isn't the government needs. I'm hearing Trump's moving at light speed. When I talk to those guys, or when we hear from the guys in crypto, David Sachs and others saying, "My God, President Trump, it's an honor to work for you. We're moving at light speed." He is moving at light speed. We need to move at light speed and get rid of these people. Maybe shut down these whole entities. Trump actually mentioned that yesterday in a question. He said, "Yeah, I think they should be shut down." Why are we paying for this propaganda from God knows who? It's terrible. Here's this NPR Maher talking about President Trump. Take a look at this.
Failed to do that. Let me ask you, why did you call President Trump a fascist and a deranged racist sociopath in 2020?
Congressman, I appreciate the opportunity to address this. I regret those tweets. I would not tweet them again today. They represented a time where I was reflecting on something that I believe that the president had said rather than who he is. I don't presume that anyone is a racist.
You don't believe anyone is a racist?
I don't start by presuming anyone is a racist.
I think Black Lives Matters are racist. Sorry. I think they're some of the most disgusting teachings we've ever seen. We've seen this stuff in our schools for our children. It's disgusting. Of course, there's racists out there. But calling President Trump a racist was way out of line. But that was the mentality of the left. Still is, I believe. Still is. She's not. I don't know if she's apologizing for that or not. Is she going to send President Trump an apology? I don't know. This lady she dug her own bed. In the real world, again, the corporate world, once she's gone, it would be a few hours before she was gone. Sorry, we're going to have to work this out, get HR involved. Let's get this fixed, get legal involved. We're going to get her gone. Who are we going to bring in to replace her? Because she can't be anywhere near running a station, especially one that's ran by the government and is supposedly supposed to be non-biased. What a joke. Elon had a piece not long ago where he just lays it out, and I think it's great. And this is what he says about our mainstream media, which includes NPR, the corrupt deep state media, and sites like this where people are flocking to because they want the truth. Don't feed me this garbage. That we just heard this lady she shared on Twitter. This is the head of NPR. Here's Elon Musk. Here's how he lays it out.
It's the whole thing's very crazy. The media is incredibly partisan. They're not. Almost all the media is left shifted.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird if you talk to somebody who gets all their information from like what I call legacy media. They're living in a different world.
Yeah.
Than if they say are listening to your podcast or getting news from X or just if it's kind of wild. Like
it is very wild.
Like you talked, it's like they're living in an alternate reality.
Oh, there's a lot of people that I talk to that I have to go, where did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the Associated Press, which I call Associated Propaganda, the AP, they ran a international news story saying that Doge fired air traffic controllers, but we didn't fire any air traffic controllers at all. In fact, we're trying to hire air traffic controllers, not fire them.
Yeah, I saw that. You made a tweet about it, right?
That's great. That's just great. Elon Musk knows a lot about the media now. He's a bright guy. He can see, and I'm so grateful that actually he's part of President Trump's cabinet. Or I don't even know if he'd say he's on his cabinet, but he's been a blessing in a lot of ways. When he saw Trump survive with that miraculous survival of getting his head blown off by an assassin, we still don't know a lot about that. It's not. Don't believe anything that the media is telling us. That body stayed on top of that roof all night long. Did you know that? Where's the chain of custody? Do you know we still haven't seen the entire ballistics report, for example? There's terms they're saying, they're not confirming some of this stuff. They say, yeah, it looks reasonable. Things like that. This is a sham, and it's just like the JFK. I hope it doesn't take 60 years for us to figure this out. I really hope whoever's running the Secret Service, who was there, who saved Trump's life, he's one of the guys helping him off the stage that day. Seems like a great guy. Trump really respects him. Believes that guy helped save his life. Let's hope he gets into the bottom of this, because there's some corruption there that was unbelievable. Murder. It was murder. It was treason. It was it's a treason to attempt an assassination plot. That's the seems to be the definition of treason. So yeah, unbelievable stuff. Just as a flashback, we used to have Tucker at Fox News. This is him with Adam Schiff. I think this too kind of depicts the left, their lies, and just trying to get an honest answer out of one of these lefties. Adam Schiff being probably one of the worst. Take a look at this.
You're on the Intel Committee. Let me just ask you one final question. Can you look right into the camera and say, I know for a fact the government of Vladimir Putin was behind the hacks of John Podesta's email?
Absolutely. The government of Vladimir Putin was behind the hacks of our institution and the dumping of information.
Of John Podesta's email.
Not only in the United States, but also in Europe.
Okay, you're not, you know what, you're dodging.
And Tucker,
no, look and say, I know they did. John Podesta's emails, they hacked those.
And I think that Ronald Reagan will be rolling over his grave. You're carrying water for the Kremlin.
I'm not carrying water for the, you're a sitting member of Congress on the Intel Committee, and you can't say they hacked.
You're gonna have to move your show to RT Russian television, because
you know what?
This
That's
is perfect.
Just so beneath your office, because it's so dumb and you're being duplicitous. I'm asking you, did they hack Podesta's emails? And you can't say it.
Like that, Tucker.
You just said I was carrying. You said I was carrying water for Putin. That's pretty hilarious.
When you essentially are an apologist for the Kremlin, that's what you're doing.
I'm going to one last time, Congressman. Look into the camera and say they hacked John Podesta's emails. We know for a fact that Putin's government did that. You can't, and you know you can't, and you're hiding behind weasel words.
I just said that
say they hacked John Podesta's emails.
Russians. I'm not going to be specific as to
because you don't know it. That's why. All right, done. One. You don't know it, and you're alleging it without any evidence, and it's wrong.
You're ignoring the evidence because you don't care. The fact that it helped the Republican candidate is all you need to know. Apparently.
That's totally false. I just think if you're going to make a serious allegation about an actual country with an actual government, you ought to know what you're talking about. And you.
That was great. Tucker destroyed that liar. Just lying Adam Schiff, as Trump says. Pencil neck Adam Schiff. That guy is so disgusting. I'm telling you, I do not believe, and I'm sure there's lots of evidence. I'm assuring you, there's lots of evidence that Adam Schiff did not win that election in 2024 for Senate in the state of California. I believe that from the bottom of my heart. And he's a scoundrel. I'm telling you, he's a scoundrel. And our elections are a joke. That's the thing we should be looking at. And some of this stuff, we get misdirected on all this stuff. Just let's get it straight. Let's keep it simple. Like I said, tomorrow we'll have a guest from Italy on the Joe Hoft Show. We'll just lay it out in a couple minutes. Here's how an election should work, like we did for 200 years in this country. Never had the shams that we've got going now, because nobody's going to vote for Adam Schiff. Nobody's voting for that guy. He's a snake. He's a sleazeball. So that's the truth. Anyways, we're going to cut for a break here, but before we do, I want to point out one piece of information, and that will be pointed out to you during the break, and it has to do with a new mechanism for investing from the Oxford Group. It's the world's smartest investors that are doing this. They're not investing in oil stocks. They're collecting mailbox money and from oil royalties instead. This is a passive income that's residual. And you can start with as little as $25. Visit hoftoilboom.com. That's HOFTOILBOOM.com to discover how to tap into these monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't need to be rich. All you need is a brokerage account. And so just go to hoftoilboom.com and start making some money from these royalty checks. Through this mechanism that Oxford Group is promoting. So do that. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this. on Tina's show here. Filling in for Tina, I'm Joe Hoft.
Do you want to get profits from the world's most productive oil basin? Bloomberg calls the Permian Basin the world's most important growth engine for oil production. Now there's a way for everyday investors to collect monthly checks from an incredible oil hotspot. It's not a stock, and it's not an ETF. Instead, you can actually own royalty rights on over 380,000 acres of prime oil and gas fields. The best part? 95% of all income from this investment gets paid directly to investors like you. You can simply sit back and collect the royalty checks month after month. You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. Visit oilboom2025.com to learn more about the opportunity from the Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Lichtenfeld. That's oilboom2025.com to learn how to start collecting Permian Basin oil royalties today.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Military, both active and retired, and first responders get up to 40% off memberships. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. Hi.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Hey, welcome back. This is Joe Hoft on The Truth Matters. Thrilled to be here today. And as I mentioned in the first segment, we got a guest. You're never going to believe who it is, but he is here. And we were able to pull him away from his busy schedule to join us today. And it's somebody I know very well. It's my twin brother, Jim Hoft, the founder of the Gateway Pundits. So without further ado, Jim, welcome to Tina Peters' Truth Matters.
Hey, Joe, good to be with you today.
Glad you are here. So thanks so much. Lots going on, huh? How are you hanging with everything? It's like a fire hose, isn't it?
Yeah. It's impossible to keep up with. Of course, the one story is the Nothing Burger, about the Signal group that we now find out that even CIA Director Ratcliffe announced during the hearing that that's what the CIA uses. So the left is trying to make this an insecure app that should never be used, and now we know that the CIA uses it. We also know that Obama's group used it. We know that Hillary's group used it. We know that Trump had used it in the past. So I'm sure it's recommended also. In fact, the Atlantic itself, back in 2017, wrote a glowing report on Signal and what a great app it was and how secure it was. So that's just one piece of it. The other piece, Joe, and I'm jumping right into this, But
Yeah, yeah.
did you see that they're now saying that Mike Waltz's contacts from his is it Venmo account, which is a kind of like a PayPal account, that they were able to find out who he's following there and some different things about his account. And I'm thinking to myself, when you join the US government at such a high level, that shouldn't be his responsibility to clean that stuff up. That should be some intel professional should be taking care of that. I don't blame him for that at all. I didn't even know that some of these apps like PayPal and Venmo and Venmo, I'm sorry, it's Venmo, and others, that they kept track of different contacts and names and numbers, and now we do. Well, where the hell was the FBI? Did they do anything when people come in? They just let them go? I mean, is this how they've treated Trump all along? I can't imagine they did this with Obama. So they're trying to make this, again, another scandal with Mike Waltz. And, you know, I think I still have a question mark with Mike Waltz. I've met him before. He was very nice when I spoke with him at some event for quite a while. But you know, I don't really know a lot about it. But, you know, the fact now that they're getting into Venmo is making me think this is a deep state operation completely. And this should have been cleaned up by the deep state. And now they're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. There's nothing there. And it'll be these toxic media that we have pushing another nothing burger, probably for weeks and months. And on top of it all, we find out that Judge Boasberg is the one who gets this case. Some radicals or whoever it is filed a case because this is so dangerous. And it's Boasberg, the biggest Trump hater, a very wicked man who laughs at people as he sends them to jail if they're Trump supporters. He actually wanted to change the laws to make the penalties against Trump supporters more lengthy than a normal person. This is who this creature is. And of course, we know everything else about him. So there's a lot going on here, a lot of pieces that are being juggling around. And of course, the other huge topic, and I know you want to comment on all this, but the other huge topic is these runaway judges. We find out last night, and I put this up on Gateway Pundit before I went to bed, that the Ninth Circuit Court out in California is saying that Trump needs to rehire all the probationary employees. And I'm thinking to myself, Joe, and you've been a top executive at a Fortune 200 company. If you're going to lay off people, who are they going to be? They're going to be people that aren't even in the door yet, people in probation. That's just a normal thing when you're trying to save money, when you're trying to save your company. And yet now we have these radical judges who are running the country. It's very obvious. We don't have a president. They're taking away more and more of his powers every day. And they're telling him that he needs to rehire probationary employees, thousands of them, over 10,000. It's just unbelievable what's happening to our country right now.
Yeah, you're so right, Jim. That is, it just, you know, you get heated talking about this stuff. And we've had a number of discussions about it. You know, jumping back to the Signal thing, I noticed that there's ties to Norm Eisen, that this Wong guy who's hired underneath Waltz, who apparently has a bit of a shady past. He worked for Obama. He worked for Romney. He worked for Trump before. But he married a girl who's was I guess she was prosecuting January 6ers, and then this leak it comes and it appears that he's connected to that Signal account of Waltz's, and this guy, in addition to that, worked for a law firm before, where he was doing pro bono work for that law firm. The pro bono work was with a nonprofit, an NGO that's tied to Norm Eisen. And he was working for them for free for one of these law firms, and and then here he comes in, and he's the guy that's tied back there. So I don't know. Laura Loomis written a lot about that as well. I just I agree though. We're probably talking way too much about this already. It's a nothing burger. It's a scam. It's another operation, and the Atlantic and that Goldberg and everybody. Here's a piece. Actually, the other night I was on with what's his name from OAN, our good friend
Dan Ball.
Dan Ball, and I brought this up. You mentioned Signal, and then Christina from Gateway Pundit wrote a piece about how Warner, who's giving him a hard time about using Signal, that the Democrat senator from Virginia used Signal back in 2017 or whatever to try to get a hold of this Russian oligarch. And when that came out in the Russia collusion sham, what was he doing trying to get a hold of this Russian oligarch? It was puzzling. There were some things that he was trying to get from the text messages we could find, which apparently were on Signal. Well, that Russian oligarch is the same guy that 4 years later, the FBI head of counterintelligence or whatever that was thrown in prison for 4 years. That's who that FBI agent was working with, was that same Russian oligarch. So this whole thing stinks. And who is Warner and some of these lefties from saying anything about this? I love the arguments where they're saying, what about Afghanistan? Nobody died in this. It was a success. We're trying to open up that Suez Canal. What about Afghanistan? 13 people died. You don't say nothing about that.
No, you're absolutely right. And I hope there's an investigation at some point into Afghanistan. And that's right. They should just laugh in the faces of these Democrats, because especially Warner trying to, lecture someone on this. He also, Joe, used Signal to get a hold of Christopher Steele, who wrote the dossier. And that was another time he used it that we know of. So, just a creep, dirty Democrat. They got nothing here. And I think I sense, at least for myself, that I don't think the Trump supporters are going to go with it. I don't think a lot of the American public are going to go with this. They've seen this show so many times. It's always nothing. It's always the mainstream media, who's known for their lies, known for not reporting anything honestly anymore, known for just being activists. They're the only ones who are excited about this. I think the Trump people are ready to move on. And so I hope, that's what happens. Of course, there's a few wobbly people. I heard from some top Trump officials today, and they had mentioned Don Jr.'s comment when he was asked about, I guess there's now several rhino, warmonger, neocon politicians who now are speaking out anonymously against this Signal group, right? And Don Jr. called them basically a bunch of P word. I don't know if I could say that on your show, but he called them a bunch of P words for not having. What's that?
Whatever you want to say.
But for not coming out and just saying what they think. They're just so weak. I think the Republican Party is weak in its nature today, but then you have the rhinos, and they're even weaker and they're more sinister. And so Don Jr. said that about these 8, so-called Republicans who are now, speaking out and thinking how horrible this is. I sense that this whole thing was a hit on Pete Hegseth. I think basically when you get back to it, he's the main target here. They want him gone because they want these wars to go on forever and ever and ever. And they want our money to go over there. They're all for World War III. They don't care what happens. It's not their kids. It's not their fortunes. In fact, they're going to make a lot of money. That's what they see. I totally buy that today. I never would have said that a few years ago. But I think this was a hit on Pete Hegseth. And I think this is disgusting. And I'm ready to move on. There's so much more that needs to be worked on, and the big thing is shutting down these judges who are out of control and have shut down the government essentially and taken over the executive branch. And the media says zippo, nothing about this legal insurrection that's taken over our country and the Trump administration. It's out of freaking control, and something needs to happen. These Republicans need to step up now, and the Supreme Court needs to step up because they're destroying the country, and that's the legacy for Chief Justice Roberts, is that he's going to destroy the country by allowing the judicial branch to take over everything. And it's unbelievable what's happening in front of our eyes.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree 100%. The Roberts is a real toxic guy. I keep wondering if his name's, if he is indeed the name that's on the Epstein list that we hear John Roberts is on that list flying overseas to that island. So who knows? Maybe that's what's going on. He certainly acts corrupt. By the way, you dropped a pretty big bomb over the weekend regarding Roberts and Boasberg and some other judges all being in this what appears to be like a secretive organization. And what can you tell us about that?
Right. So actually, there's these groups, and I think they started in London and England, and they had been essentially secretive, but they're certainly invite only, and it's the top justices and judges in England. This has spread to America. It's been going on for several decades, and there's several of these different groups that meet, and you have to be invited. And I posted something about Chief Justice Roberts being in the same group with some of the most loathsome, despicable people in the country, not just DC, but in the country. These people, and we've documented this at Gateway Pundit. They laughed when Trump supporters were going to jail. They gave them the maximum, and then they would try to give them more years in prison. They made up a phony rule, this 1512(2)(c) rule that was thrown out by the Supreme Court so that they could tack on more and more years on these people's time in prison. They weren't lenient with anyone unless their name was Ray Epps. And they destroyed lives, destroyed families. They sent the FBI to the homes to bust through the doors all over the country with SWAT teams, and shame on the FBI. Those agents should all be fired. If this is what you're telling me, that when the Nazis, when the U.S. allies rolled into Germany, they didn't just pardon these Nazis who were the ones who were throwing people in concentration camps. They were actually pretty harsh with them. And I think that we should be harsh, and I'm not equating the two exactly. But what these people have done to destroy lives is despicable. And so anyway, Roberts is sitting in this select group and going to these meetings that aren't private, but this bad kitty Unleashed, this Twitter account who found all this, she had a hard time finding information on this. So yes, it's not secretive, but it's pretty difficult to find some information. And they were openly going to these meetings and hobnobbing, and Chief Justice Roberts is hanging out with Boasberg and Beryl Howell and Amit Mehta, another one, and several others who were just vicious with Trump supporters. They hate Trump. They've said horrible things about Trump. Now they're trying to overthrow the government, and this is Chief Justice John Roberts with them. So, I did get some pushback from some people who are in the know with the Supreme Court, and they said, well, this is a nothing burger. These weren't secret meetings. Well, and my response to that was, I went back and I looked at each one of these judges, and I put down their records, these leftist judges, and they're despicable people. They're rotten people. What they've done to so many people. A friend of ours who was a hero from New York City, destroying his life. So many people, they don't care. They don't care. They take joy out of destroying the lives of Republicans, just as you would see in any tyrannical regime. These are the people that John Roberts is hanging out with. I wouldn't want to be there. What would I have in common with Beryl Howell to sit down and talk over cocktails, right?
Yeah.
Or a Meet Meta or this Boasberg? What would I have to say? There's nothing I want to hear from that guy. He's a despicable person, and his record proves it. And I'm not just saying that because the left gets all crazy about Trump and Elon Musk, and don't even know what they're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I've documented this. These are horrible people. What is Chief Justice Roberts hanging out with them for? And tell me they're not talking politics. I don't believe that for a second.
And compared to the left, Trump and Elon are always right. Always right.
Right.
And, but I saw some stuff on that Boasberg. He was behind Hillary and her email sham. He sat in on that and said, we're not going to release anything on this until after the election or some information of that sort, some action like that. He's just got a horrible record. He was over Kleinsmith, right? That
right.
guy,
He pardoned
the only guy that gets indicted from the Russia collusion attempted coup d'etat of the Trump administration, which is treason, and which fortunately Rudy Giuliani shared with me. There's only 2 crimes that there's no statute of limitations on: treason and murder. And so that's good to know. We can still bring these guys to justice, and we should. And Boasberg gave that guy barely a slap on the hand. He got his license back in a couple months. That was it. That was Boasberg. He's on the FISA court. He's just been a nasty guy for, long period of time. And then recent actions, my God, he's the guy behind the whole plane load of these monsters being sent to El Salvador. He wanted to stop that midway across the Gulf of America and send them back. Who is this guy? He's so, and now he's getting this signal case, like you said. We've got to fix this stuff. There's no randomness. You know what I heard about this whole case in with the sending these these gangbangers over to El Salvador that came out of Venezuela, that snuck into the country during the Biden years, that are violent and nasty and tattoos all over, just despicable people. I heard that case shouldn't have even gone to Boasberg, that he wasn't on the docket that Saturday. There's one guy that was on the docket and he didn't get it. Somehow it went to Boasberg. So, some real shenanigans here. I've also heard recently that Boasberg did some stuff to a January 6th guy and covering up some things and kept him in prison for about 3 months when he did nothing wrong recently, I think this year. So he's a slime ball that he needs to be indicted. That's what I think.
Definitely. They need to start an investigation against each one of these people. And, there's things that Congress could do. I don't know. I hear that the Senate has to get 2/3 to get rid of these judges. So maybe that isn't the answer. But I think the House has the ability to shut down sending funds to these different courts. And I believe it was Congress who decided to create this D.C. district of radical judges, and I think Congress could probably shut down that whole district, or move these judges to traffic court, which Ed Martin has done previously already this year with some other radical judges. Put them in traffic court. Maybe they can control themselves there. Maybe they won't be as destructive. So there are solutions. Senator Mike Lee has an option where he says that if they're going to file one of these lawsuits against Trump, that they need to go before a 3-panel of their peers, of 3 panels of district judges, and if they approve it, then it needs to go to the Supreme Court before they push this on the whole country. Because these judges are not the president of the United States. They don't have his powers. They're stripping that from the executive branch. Now, I don't know if Chief Justice Roberts has it in him to do the right thing. I don't know if he's weak or if he's just, if there's other reasons that he's not making these decisions that seem pretty simple for most Americans. I think 80% of America would understand what the right decision would be in this case, and that would be that, we elect a president, we don't elect this jackass to be the president. Maybe we should allow Donald Trump to run the country instead of this person in San Francisco or Hawaii. So, I don't know. Something has to be done. This has to stop.
Yeah, I think that some of these guys need to be indicted. I'd like to know how much they're working in collusion with people like Norm Eisen. How does this case get to Boasberg? How does Boasberg get this case over a weekend? He's not even on the docket to get a case. Stuff like that needs to be looked into. I think the way they communicate with each other as well. Maybe that's
might
why
be
they
signal.
hide. They want
right.
Or why they want to hide that special group up. Say, well, we don't want to talk about that because that's where we go and share information on how we're going to screw Trump supporters and Trump, which is, I think, 80% of the country right now. Everybody's thrilled about what's going on. And they're making a big deal about tariffs, everything else. Trump's doing a fantastic job. I guess, Jim, how would you assess it, here in the last minute or two, Trump's administration so far?
I think there's a different mood in the air right now. I don't think Americans are as naive as they were back in 2017. They're not buying the crap, that the left keeps pushing. The mainstream media has been neutered, really, for the most part. They're still very powerful, but people don't trust them. They know they can't trust them. They've lied about every major event in the past, 8 years, and anything to do with Trump. So I think Trump will weather this. Trump's been doing a fantastic job. Otherwise, he just keeps plowing ahead. And so America, with Donald Trump, I think we have a great chance of surviving and being a great nation again. So we just have to continue to pray for his life and success.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Well, Jim, thanks so much for joining Tina Peters and helping her today. I'm greatly appreciated, I'm sure, by Tina. She's going through a real tough time. And so, she, telling people to pray, help in whatever way they can. So thank you for helping.
Yeah. God bless Tina. All right. Thank you, Joe.
To be here. Thank you. And take good care.
Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye. And thanks. It's been an honor to be here with you guys today. Look forward to chatting. I'll be live right after this show here in a couple minutes. So we'll see you on the Joe Hoft show in a few moments. Anyways, thanks for being here.
Hi, Tina Peters here.
See, today they go after you if you're investigating.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.